William Shakespeare had once said, "Hell is empty, and all the devils are here." No, he did not say these words to ignite fear in your minds, but he said it for a reason so simple and easy that many of us fail to understand. We've all heard of heaven and hell, but no one except the dead have seen it, and the living have no proof of its existence. Simply put, you live here and you die here. There is no other world. For if there is, then the dead wouldn't walk here. And so, once upon a time, Fredrick drew his look away from the window to rest it on his assistant Moira Kilby. They had been working on a paper, Fear and the World of Optical Hallucinations. Professor Fredrick Alexander had a theory on fear. His research led him to believe that fear was the most important faculty that the human brain possessed. Fear was the driving force of evolution. But fear sometimes was also self-generated. Moira thought back to the time he had first explained it to her. How does anything fill you with fear? Take, for instance, the sight of a man-eating tiger in front of you. Now, how would the circuits in your mind work? Your eyes, the retina, would through the optic nerve take the image of the tiger to your brain, and then the brain would see the tiger and tell you, you must run. Is that not right? Yes, I understand, Moira nodded. Now imagine you're in a haunted kind of house in the middle of the night, and you have heard stories about the house from a lot of people. You are very scared. So what happens? Your body is pumping adrenaline, and in the state of acute fear, sometimes this process of seeing gets reversed. The brain sees what you've been told about, a ghoul, a ghost, a demon, whatever be the case. Then the optic nerve carries the image to your retina, and the eye sees what the brain is seeing. There's nothing really there, but your mind, controlled by fear, creates this vision. Moira was fascinated by the theory. It could explain why so many people saw ghosts and such. It could just be a function of fear, or then fear-guided imagination. Do we have volunteers then? The professor asked, bringing Moira back to the room. We have permission from the owners of Bradbury Hall to conduct our experiments there, but in terms of volunteers to spend the night there, only one. Moira informed the professor. The professor wanted 2 volunteers to spend a night at a haunted house. Volunteer A would be told about the hauntings, and volunteer B would be told that the house was haunted, but nothing else. Now, if volunteer A and volunteer B saw the same thing, then his theory did not work. And there was something really there called a haunting. But on the other hand, if they saw different things, then it would be obvious that the mind saw what it had already seen before in its imagination when it was told about the haunted house. But now, darn, they had only one volunteer. Would you want to be a volunteer, Moira? Volunteer A? The professor posed. Moira looked up wide-eyed, not sure how to react. She could be volunteer A. She knew all about the house and the story of the haunting. But a night in the house would be an ordeal in horror. Curiosity and fear. A strange kind of weighing scale. Her curiosity won. I will do it. Moira tried a smile and failed. Very well then. Let's find out if we really see ghosts or not, the professor exclaimed. Volunteer B was a young lady by the name of Betty. She was small, almost bird-like. It was hard to imagine her spending a night in Bradbury Hall and coming out unscathed. The professor made sure that she had signed all the legal papers. This had to be of her volition. Bradbury Hall was easily the most haunted mansion in the history of the country. It stood in the middle of a large pine forest. The very sight of it could send shivers down an unsuspecting spine. The ghostly legend spoke of a family that lived there more than 200 years ago. It was said that the owner was a lord of some kind. He had a wife and 2 daughters. Tragedy struck one of his daughters when a stray bit her, and the doctor pronounced hydrophobia, or rabies, that it was commonly known then. As much as it hurt the family, the girl had to be kept isolated. She was kept in the attic. They could hear her screams and howls, coupled with her feeble attempts at breaking down a door made of heavy oak. One night, she couldn't take it anymore, and managing to unbolt the attic window, she jumped out of it. Till this day, her screams and howls can be heard piercing the night air. Families that stayed there saw the apparition of a beautiful young girl, gesturing them to come to the attic with her. Many were lured into following her, and the town historian knew for certain that a young boy of one family that lived there was indeed pushed out of the attic window. The professor would remain in the ground floor study all night, while both Moira and Betty would roam the halls of the house by night. That was the plan. In the morning, they would all meet in the study and talk about what they have seen, or not seen, as be the case. The clock struck 11. Both the girls said goodbye to the professor and set about their nightly vigil. The screams did come, loud and unmistakable. Moira heard it in the dining room where she sat in a corner. Betty, she heard it in the master bedroom, and the professor in the study. Then for the next 2 hours, not a sound, save the eerie voice of the howling wind and the ticking of the grandfather clock. It was exactly at 3 a.m. when Moira burst into the study. Professor, Betty was led up into the attic and is locked up there. She does not know better. She does not know the story of the house. She will be flung outside. Please come with me. The professor ran out of the room behind Moira. In the meanwhile, and listen closely, another Moira had just finished a half-an-hour vigil in the kitchen. She walked out silently, but from where she stood, she could clearly see the professor climbing the staircase, following someone who looked exactly like her. Then, to her horror, she realized she could neither scream nor move. The last she saw was the professor stepping into the attic behind the girl. The last she heard was the big oak door closing shut.